Alan Quinlan, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Keeping well. Wonderful win for the under-20s. I was watching the France-England game yesterday evening, and I mean, the way it started, I was like, oh, this is England's game. No, they're not going to lose this match. Unbelievable start, but France came back into it. But from an Irish perspective, pretty pleased with that performance, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think they soaked up a lot of pressure. I think certainly wouldn't have been the type of first half that Richie Murphy or the players would have wanted themselves. Not if you took away the scoreboard, because Ireland were 7-0 up at half time, which was remarkable really, given the pressure they were under. No real clear-cut chances for South Africa, but they were hammering away for a long time, playing most of the game in Ireland's half. But this Irish side have shown I think Gus McCarthy described them as a pack of dogs afterwards, and it was a good description, to be honest, because they're tough, Shane. They're tough as nails, to be fair to them. And I don't know if people kind of, for me as a former player, I was kind of going, this is a team I'd like to be in, because they're tenacious and they're very tight as well. They seem to be, and look, obviously what they've been through in the last week, I think for Andrew Wall and Maxwell and Andrew O'Donnell, the Michaels lads who tragically passed away, that had a kind of a direct impact into, there was I think 6 people in the group who were in Michaels and would have known those boys who died way too young, tragically. They were dealing with that, and then for Greg Oliver to pass away the day before the match, tragically again, the father of Jack. It's a lot for young people to kind of take in, and to go out and play Fiji then. And I was worried yesterday, because I thought, in some ways, and this, I hope this doesn't sound disrespectful, I think you kind of have a cause.
Delayed emotion
game, for the Fiji game, kind of it's all so real and so recent. You kind of have that cause to go, well, we're not going out to let anyone down here, and we've no choice. It was kind of like when Axel passed away in Limerick, when
playing for something.
Munster went out to play at Glasgow that day. You just felt nobody in the world is going to beat Munster this day, because it can't happen. Their players are not going to allow it to happen. There was a little bit of that, the way Fiji presented the jersey was a lovely moment, that they were going to, even though they made mistakes in the game, I worried a little bit yesterday that, it was 4 or 5 days after, and the emotional kind of turmoil and how that be processed. But obviously, they had people in, spoke to them, tried to kind of talk about it, because, you can put on a brave face and say, look, I'm fine and all that, but that's what's so impressive for me, the way they were able to, stick together and perform. And if you look at the scoreline, it's a little bit surreal, isn't it? 31-12, against a host nation.
7-0 at half time, as you say.
Yeah. And their defence and their work rate is just through the roof. I think they make life difficult for themselves at times with some mistakes and decision making, but they seem to react every time. If they have a mistake, they kind of dust themselves off, which is a lovely kind of mentality as young people. We see older sports people, sometimes it can kind of bog you down, can't it? If something goes wrong in a match, and you're always trying to tell kids, look, you've got to get over the mistake, the next ball,
absolutely,
and move on. And they do it perfectly. They just seem to go, well, let's the next action. And you could analyse their games and say, well, certain things got to be different. And I think they've improved as the tournament went on. And if you go back to the first game against England, they lose that game, and potentially they're not in this final. That's how tight it is when you have 3 groups of 4. So hang on first of all in that game and make sure it was a draw. When they kind of had the game won on the 65th minute, England came back and they were hanging on for dear life. They've had a couple of sightings, injuries, and all the other stuff. So look, they're going to be up against it against France, but I just thought the second half yesterday, South Africa scored just after half time, after missing 2 kickable penalties by their out half, John Smith, who hadn't missed a kick in the tournament in the other 3 games. He missed 2 very kickable penalties, and you think, oh God, maybe it's one of those days where things are going to go right. Sam Prendergast drops the ball out, and they end up score off the second miss, and they end up scoring a try, and you're thinking, right, that's the kind of door open now for South Africa here. And Ireland just go upfield, and Brian Gleeson scores that wonderful try off the line out, and they just kick on, and they're an incredibly impressive group, to be fair, and it's wonderful to see them in the final.
So that period earlier in the year, that tournament they played, I remember seeing a couple of games down in Musgrave Park. Like Sam Prendergast obviously coming into the fore. Yeah. In terms of what they know about France from kind of that experience, do you think that helps?
Well, they know what's coming. I think if you look at France, I kind of have before yesterday's game, like in the pool matches, they had maximum points, 3 wins, 22 tries scored, 7 conceded. So it's 22 tries in 3 games. They got 6 yesterday again. 1 in the first half and 5 in the second half, and had 1 or 2 tries disallowed. So they could have been 8 or 9 tries. They've improved a lot, Sarah, and they've brought in a couple of players. Posolo Tuolangi, who's only 18, he's 145 kilos. He's in the second row. He's a son of Henry Tuolangi, who played for Perpignan in France, and I played against Henry Tuolangi.
Big man as well.
Big man is an understatement. He's absolutely massive, and Henry would be in and out of the game, kind of, but he makes this charge and you're going backwards. Your best bet is just close your eyes and kind of hope that he doesn't bolt you 20 yards backwards. But as all the Tuolangis, we've seen him play for Leicester, and you know, for the younger one, Manu Tuolangi plays for England. Obviously, he's a lot of injuries. Freddie Tuolangi would have been another brother, played with Leicester played against him in the European final in 2002. But Henry played with Perpignan. His son is 18 now. He's 145 kilos, so they're after kind of calling him into the squad.
The squads anyway.
And he's heavily involved in what they're doing. But they have some brilliant players. You know, Max Gazzotti, the number 8. What a footballer. You know, we talk about Brian Gleeson and the impact he's having. Gazzotti for them is a wonderful footballer. You know, and they've so many good players. But in saying that, Ireland, going back to answer your question, Sarah, I kind of drifted away there. That game in Cork, Ireland won 33-31. And it was one of those games where you felt Ireland kind of got away with this. Okay. They were kind of, the physicality at times was kind of a little bit at a level that you thought Ireland were going to get blown away here. But
so is that confidence, or is that you can't beat the same team twice in a year?
Yeah, I think it's confidence in one way. It depends what way you look at it, and they will look at it and say, okay, we know as France are very strong physically and they're a very good side. They have great speed and tempo to their game. So if you allow them play, they can do that magical French flair, and they have lots of players who can do that. But I think it's a real kind of wake-up call for players. And if I was one of the players, you're thinking, right, I've got to be on the money here physically. I've got to have my mentality right and be ready for this, you know, kind of up the aggression levels and all that kind of stuff. So the worst thing they can try and do is think you can contain them, and that's going to win you a game. Ireland, and they've shown this, and I'm sure Richie Murphy will want his team. They're a brilliant side when they play and when they hold on to the ball. So I think he'll want his side to play and not solely focus on stopping France. France are a very dangerous side. So in summary, France have got better. Okay. I think Ireland have got better as well, and they've got more depth in their squad, Ireland, which is impressive because they have lots of the impact off the bench is very good. But that was probably a game in Cork that France could have won. Ireland could have lost it. You know, I think that Prendergast kicks a penalty at the end to win it for them. Of course, that gives you confidence. Yeah. That if you get stuff
and
right,
there's no fear of the unknown. Sometimes you can build teams up in your head.
Yeah. And you know yourself, Sarah, when you get into finals, sometimes it kind of levels a bit out. You can be very conscious and aware of the team you're playing. That, you know, they're favourites. Mainly for what they've done in this tournament, France. They've kind of blown everyone away. They, like when you beat a New Zealand team like they did in round 2. Round 1 was it round 2? I'm not sure. Round 2, I think.
There's going to be hype.
Yeah, of course there is, and people are going to take notice. But they've done wonderful, the under-20s Ireland.
There will be obvious parallels with the 2016 team. The only previous time we've had an under-20 side in the World Final, that time that was a defeat to England in the final, 45 points to 21. England were the hosts, of course, back in 2016. And a few Irish players, to be fair, came through that 2016 team in the senior ranks. But of this current crop, who can you see kind of follow that path?
It's hard, and it's I don't know. It's not unnecessary pressure. It's an opinion from me. Lots of people have different opinions. If you look at 2016, James Ryan was the captain of that team in Manchester. 2 years later, he's running out in Twickenham winning a Grand Slam for Ireland. That's a quick acceleration. So is Andrew Porter. So is Jacob Stockdale. So there's three of those guys who started in Manchester, played in Manchester, and then 2 years later they're down in Twickenham. Incredible, such young players, and they've obviously they're very important players now in the pro game. Stockdale is in the squad but not starting for Ireland, but Porter and James Ryan, you think they're starters every time Ireland go out nowadays. Shane Daly played, and he had a brilliant end of season, brilliant season with Munster. Jimmy O'Brien, Will Connors, Max Deegan. There's lots of more
Hugo
players.
Keenan was there as well.
Hugo Keenan. So, number of those players, maybe 8-10 of them came through, and they're playing regularly now with their provinces. So, if you're looking at it for a parallel, of course, there's a number of these players that are going to make it and come through, and. You want me to start picking out players who are going to make it?
Who do you think? Brian Gleeson is the obvious first pick, isn't he? Like, as a tip man, you're going to put Gleeson straight away.
Yeah, I think the captain has been, of course, Paddy McCarthy at Loosehead. He's a brother of Joe McCarthy. He's a brilliant player. He's played tight end in the Six Nations. He's over Loosehead now because Ronan Fox is in tight head.
Versatile.
Brilliant player. Really tough. Not just a good scrummager, but a great footballer around the field. The captain, Gus McCarthy, what a player. He's been a great leader for them as well, and again, mad for the ball in his hands, all action all over the field, great work rate. It's kind of unfair to be picking guys out here, but I suppose there's a number of them. All the forwards, Charlie Irvine, who's come in for this tournament, he's into the academy now in Ulster. He's a big prospect. Conor O'Tiernig, brilliant player as well. The back row, I probably, if I was to scrutinise that more, Dermot Mangan, Ruan Quinn and Brian Gleeson, and I highlighted them yesterday in the match. They all had big games. They all had big impacts. Gleeson has 4 tries scored in the tournament in essentially 3 games, because he only came off the bench against England because he had an injury in the lead up. He also came off against Fiji, so it's not even probably 3 full games. He scored a number of tries in the Six Nations. He's a machine. He's powerful. Didn't have it all his own way yesterday, because you're playing the margins and the opportunity of space is tightening up a little bit, and you're playing against a very physical side. But right across that forward pack, they all have a chance of really going on to the next level. It depends. You need a bit of luck with injuries, all that kind of stuff, but they were a kind of mainstay, that group, and James McNabney as well, who picked up a suspension. They did brilliantly in the Six Nations, and they've kind of continued on in this tournament. The big ones and the most kind of high profile ones is the Sam Prendergast, Sonny Bill Williams tweeting about him for the offload. He's a very talented player. I think he brought his kicking boots yesterday, which
he had some difficulties earlier in the tournament.
Well, he missed 4 kickable conversions.
But he was impeccable in the Six Nations, so there was always going to be a
of course.
And I think he's still learning. There's a lot of pressure, everything. You're probably handling the ball 70, 80 times in a game as an out half. You're always going to have 1 or 2 mistakes. It's difficult to get. Imagine touching the ball 80 times and you're supposed to kind of have good moments in all those 80.
70% conversion.
So you're going,
yeah.
But aside from the kicking, you're touching the ball a lot. You've a lot of decisions to make, and I still think he's learning. But he's a brilliant player, and
crossfield kicks as well.
Yeah, they were yesterday 2 great crossfield kicks. Fintan Gunn, all action scrum half, inciting him as well. And John Devine is someone I spoke about at 12. He's been kind of ever present in his team, and so many positive involvements as well. So James Nicholson, who didn't start against England, he's 2 tries right across the board. Hugh Cooney, who picked up a suspension, Henry McErleen. There's loads of them. It is a bit unfair because you're leaving someone out. Hugh Gavin has been really good for the team as well. So there's a lot of big players. If you're asking me to pick out 2-3 players now, I think you're obviously... Ruan Quinn is 116 kilos. He's 19. He is just so powerful and explosive with his carries.
Like compared to Tuolangi,
he's down
30 kilos to put on there.
But 116 or 17 kilos as an open side wing forward. You know, my playing weight, when I felt I was, you know, strong and no problem, you know, playing at the top level, and physically I wasn't like God. I was probably 109-10 kilos.
Right, and he's 19 and he's
6 or 7 kilos heavier than I would have been when I was very comfortable at 109 or 10 kilos. That's 17 and a half stone thereabouts. I fluctuated for a wing forward. That's not small.
Hefty, like,
but he's 116 kilos. Brian Gleeson is 118 kilos.
Right.
He's underage next year. He's 19 since February, Brian Gleeson. So he's 118 kilos, but he can move as well.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I'm not kind of saying it's all about size. Richie McCaw, one of the greatest wing forwards of all times, was probably between 100 and 105 kilos. So it's not about the weight
necessarily.
It helps, particularly if you make lots of carries. So you play to your strength. So Ruan Quinn, the amount of carries he makes in a match, and they're really explosive carries. Dermot Mangan was, you know, he's very powerful and strong as well. He's probably up around 14, 15 kilos as well. So they're strong, powerful guys, but that's just the nature of way these players are built nowadays.
Was it the scrum in the mall that won it in the second half?
Scrum was
the South African pack were getting tired quick.
Now, look, South Africa... they probably played well for 50-60 minutes against Georgia and for 30 minutes of the second half against Argentina.
Yeah,
they were very inconsistent and uncharacteristically poor at defending mauls at scrum time. So you don't kind of associate a Springbok side who are weak in those areas. Ireland exposed them, and you know, really kind of the scrum was outstanding yesterday. Really, really brilliant. I probably won the game from that physicality up front, but the scrum was a big, really important factor in the victory. So it's a brilliant pace for them, Shane. They you know, again, given everything they've been through, they've kind of kept their focus, and to go out and beat the host nation like that yesterday and get into a final, and certainly look, they're up against it with France, who have been so good, but they'll have a chance. You know, they'll really believe, and I think they've shown us when the shackles are off a little bit, they have a real go. So obviously they've got to get the fundamentals right and kind of step up around the set piece.
But you're saying the underdogs tag might actually suit them?
Yeah, I don't like the underdogs tag and that kind of mentality of, oh, we need it. We kind of played a lot with that before at times, and I always wanted to be the favourites and kind of go the other way and deal with the favourites tag. But no, of course, I think, yes, everybody believes that France are a better side and probably the best side in the tournament. Ireland need to bring a kind of a 9 out of 10 performance to get a win, but I think they've a chance. They've a real good chance here, and that'll be exciting for them. And you know, they've kind of got through. What a return for these players if they were to win it. But I think if they were to come home and, you know, having been beaten in their final, I still think it's been a brilliant tournament for them.
Yeah, Friday is that final. With
that group of players that you've mentioned there, that influx of talent to the senior ranks, you know, notably the win on Friday is not going to dictate their futures per se, based on the 2016 piece.
Not at all.
Is that a very attractive prospect for a future manager who may be based away?
Maybe based away in France, is it?
Would that be something that would steer him back to Ireland?
Oh yeah, you're talking. I think you're talking about Rog. I think, yes, of course. If he was going to come back here at some stage,
that would be a reason to come back.
Of course, you look at the players, the quality of players. Some of these guys will probably end up going overseas because, you know, they might not all make it here. They might have to go away for a couple of years. He might sign one or two of them. Who knows? But I think Irish rugby is in a pretty healthy state.
Yeah.
Listen, in 3 months we'll probably be doom and gloom merchants again, because maybe I will if we're knocked out in the quarterfinals. And the rugby haters will be happy, and who knows. But look, it's good. Lots of good young players. They won a Grand Slam last year as well, we mustn't forget, and a Grand Slam this year, and now in a final. So
next year's team is better, I'm told.
Okay, is it?
It's always coming. Yeah.
Next year's team is better again.
There's a good few of these guys underage. Evan O'Connell is. There's a number of them.
Future's bright. Quinny, we'll chat to you again before the final. Thanks a million for popping in.